Hi everyone. Today I would welcome architect Chirag Dedia. He has been extensively working towards innovation and implementation of technology in the construction industry. He is known to be an veteran implementer of BIM in the construction industry in India. He has successfully implemented BIM in many leading and prestigious projects of India. Hi Chirag.
Hi.
There are certain questions in the industry and people would love to know from you, from the horse's mouth, how BIM is useful and how it is creating and adding value in the industry. So let's directly go to the questions. Since BIM is all around us almost from last 20 years,
Yes.
but still, what is the reason do you think that people are still feel that BIM is a new technology in the world or in India?
Yeah, I think so. This happens, especially with technology which has been around for some time. You can say that there are, three groups of, people now in the industry. One group is those companies, those individuals who started their process of learning BIM or who got introduced to this technology, who adopted this technology almost, let's say, 15, 20 years back. Right? So they've today reached a level of expertise. They've started to ensure that all their projects are on BIM. They're in fact looking towards adopting automation techniques in BIM. And when they recruit people in their offices, they expect skilled manpower on BIM because they've been doing it for so many years. So that's one group of people. The second group of people, you would say, are people who tried things maybe 10, 15 years ago or say 5 years ago, and they didn't find so much success somehow. Either the approach was not correct, or the people who were working with them, changed jobs and moved on. So they don't have the right manpower and they continue to struggle a bit here and there. Although they did try, but maybe they failed and they've not been so successful at it. And the third group of people are the people who have actually never started BIM. So they began to only hear very recently about BIM. And so they attend, events, conferences, and they hear about BIM. And for them, it's new.
Correct.
So that's when you say that, why people feel it's new. It's new because of this, because some people are just getting introduced to it. And here also are a lot of students, for example. They're coming out of colleges. When they come out of colleges, they realize that, employability is going to be an issue if they don't know BIM as much. When they want to go abroad for jobs, they realize that BIM is going to be essential for their careers. And this is that group of people who essentially feels this is new in India, whereas it's actually not.
Right. Yeah. So coming to the next question, as you have trained many leading design engineering consultants and architectural firms, let's say ASMEPF consultants in the industry, and it is since your initial days, as far as I know, you have been doing BIM since 2007. So can you just elaborate what was the major challenges to these design consultants face in terms of implementing BIM on their projects?
Right. So there are various things. First is having a proper BIM leader in their organization. So let's say having somebody who can guide them along the way, because when it's new for someone, you need somebody to guide you along the way. So having that BIM leader in the organization could be externally hired, could be internally developed or hired. You need somebody in-house to drive the whole show and to sustain the transformation that is happening in the organization. That's one. Second, you would say, is planning a BIM project. That's where I think they kind of struggle a bit. So planning a BIM project, deciding the right number of resources, the right amount of time that would be required at which stage of the project. So traditionally people tend to, size the team, or they tend to estimate the time like they were doing in their CAD projects, which is not really the case with BIM. With BIM, you initially need more time and eventually later on need lesser time. And if you do the reverse, then you kind of struggle with your deliverables at the end. So planning the project, a BIM project, is crucial. Third is, of course, training staff. So companies sometimes struggle in training their staff, or sometimes recruiting the right staff for their projects. The next is retaining the staff that
that is another challenge.
Or trained. Yes. Yeah, so that sometimes is a challenge for organizations where they don't know how and who to retain. So this again kind of in a way is in line with having a BIM leader who's inspiring them, who's motivating the staff to ensure that they stick around for long in the organization, and ensure that it's not just that one group of people who was doing BIM in that organization, but BIM actually percolates down to everybody in the organization. That's very crucial. And if that doesn't happen, again, there is struggle for those organizations when they find to adopt BIM. And I would say one last thing is continuously having projects on BIM. So whether the project demands BIM or whether the project or the contract of the project requires BIM or not, but making sure that that organization is using BIM for its own advantage, not for the client's requirement, but actually using it to their own advantage, whether it's an architectural firm, whether it's an interior design firm, whether it's a construction company, whether it's a developer organization, whether it's a MEP consultant, or for that matter, landscape consultant, lighting consultant, facade consultants, each one of them using BIM for their own use and making sure that they have continuous amount of work happening on BIM. If they have that continuity of using BIM, they have a BIM leader, they have planned properly, I don't see BIM failing in those organizations at all. In fact, BIM continues to grow in those organizations, and they start to have a command over many things. That's what we've seen with organizations who are adopting BIM.
So Chirag, as you said that people should use BIM for their own benefit. So I have a question, like since we met a lot of people in the industry, what we feel is sometimes people hesitate to take BIM and try to implement BIM into their organization because they have certain feeling that their employees and their organization is not equipped with BIM, or they are not very clear with will it be successful or not for their organization and on their projects. So what would you like to say for them?
So this is, that kind of hesitation is pretty normal. I would say that anybody who's trying or looking at something new, you always hesitate when you look at it the first time.
Right.
One of the ways for them I would recommend is for them to go out, meet people who are either using BIM, in the industry, rather than coming to vendors, suppliers. Go meet your peers. Is what I would say. See how BIM has been in action. We tried doing something like this by, organizing an industry event where different developer, employees from different developer organizations went and met another developer organization, and in a way that they could learn from each other. That kind of a way is a very good way to engage and understand the value that technology or anything new can provide for them. That's one. Second is, I think, I remember back in college, we were also, at some point in time, certain professors advised us or recommended that we should not use CAD in the college level.
Okay.
And when you come out of college, that time, I'm talking about 20 years ago, if you didn't know CAD, you literally couldn't get hired. And today that's the case with BIM. If you don't know BIM, you literally are not as employable as somebody else who knows BIM. So I think that kind of hesitation does happen because in the institutions it does happen in a way where sometimes people are not very clear how it would help them. So those kind of hesitations are there, and I think with time those kind of hesitations do go away also over a period of time. Today we see young generation adopting technology at a much faster rate than we have adopted. And we see them that they are so technology friendly. So I would say seniors in the organizations who do not know how to go about adopting BIM or what to do with it should sometimes allow the younger generation to try things out in their own organizations. And sometimes having a group of 1 or 2 or 4 people, younger generation, trying something new could get them some innovation, some new things in their processes, and would help them with technologies like BIM, digital twin, IoTs, and so many other things that are available which they can take advantage of. That's what I would say.
Because many of the company or all of the company have their seniors who are the either decision maker or the influencer for their organization. Do you feel that taking the services of BIM on a lower cost, like the contracting mindset is there in the industry, is appropriate for the project owners or the developers? Because somehow I have felt that I have known various developers who have started doing BIM and implemented them, and they went to know that okay, this is not useful for them, or this has not worked for them. So they have worsened their taste of BIM, right. And now they felt like okay, BIM is not for us. Okay, maybe it is good for abroad projects, but not for in India.
Yeah, that's another funny thing that we keep seeing. People think that it's not for us, it is for somebody else. Well, that's not true. I think BIM has been there for good 20 years. I remember when I started off with BIM, people used to question whether this will stick around or not.
Right.
And I used to keep saying that you will see so much of use of BIM over a period of time that you'll be surprised. And that stage has come today.
Correct.
After
Yeah.
about 2 decades, there's so much use of BIM, and it's surprising that it's percolated down quite a lot. And there are these naysayers and people who doubt. Sometimes they're not very sure. They want to go slow, and I think it's okay to go slow. But what's not okay is to take the wrong approach with adopting BIM, and that's where they need to be careful. Take the right guidance at adopting BIM in the right amount of manner. To give you an example, some projects where we see sometimes projects slowing down.
Right.
Deliverables are slowing down for some reason.
Right.
And we observe that it's not the tool or technology which is slowing things down. It's not BIM which is an issue there.
Right.
The way the project has been planned by the consultant and the way the deliverables are getting issued by the consultant, the way they operate their business itself.
Right.
You give them CAD, they would have failed over there as well. It's not just BIM which is why they're flailing. It's actually the way they operate their business, the focus on attention on project or the deliverables they have, the way they plan their resources sometimes, or sometimes they take up too much work than what they can handle, and that's why the project suffers when they're not able to give enough manpower. And that kind of wrong resourcing or planning is the reason if something fails, a project slows down. It's not really the tool that is making them fail. It's just the way they operate their business.
So how they manage BIM plays a crucial part in
Yes.
success. Right. So my next question is, after successfully implementing BIM at various leading construction projects in India, what do you think, why many developers are still struggling to implement BIM on their projects?
So developers and project owners who have understood the value of BIM and those who have successfully implemented BIM on their projects are doing two things really well.
Okay.
One, they mandate BIM on the project through the contract. So when that happens, it goes down well.
There's no option left.
There's no option. It's not like, should I do this or not? It is to be done. It's required. It's understood well by the developer, and they mandate it via the contract itself. That's number one. Number two, they are having internal resources who are maintaining the continuity of BIM on their projects. So having an internal resource, so having somebody who's a leader in the organization, who understands that it's not a project where BIM should not be used. It's not a group of consultants which is probably, sometimes in a group of consultants, one consultant is weaker enough and the project kind of does not go as desired.
Yeah.
So what they're doing is they're doing multiple projects on BIM, and they have this one leader internally who's maintaining that continuity, taking the learnings from various projects, going to the management, giving them insights into how in a particular project BIM fared and what happened in that project, which consultant did well, what was done right in that project with regards to the technology or with regards to the people who were set up for the project. So having that person as an internal eyes and ears for the organization is very important, and that we feel they're doing quite well. Others who are not successful at using BIM, we're seeing that they keep doing this big mistake of having CAD and BIM go parallelly. This is just, I think we've said it over and over again in so many different ways, at so many different platforms and so many places. But we see whenever that is happening, we've seen the use of BIM not really going great, because what you're essentially doing is you're putting a slower technology or a inefficient way of working ahead, and you're expecting a better technology to give you results, which will not be able to cross, because that's what you've done. You put the cart before the horse and you're expecting results, and that just doesn't happen. I think that wherever that has happened, it's not been successful. There's been that struggle that keeps going on, and this kind of slows down the project.
Correct. Because the people doesn't want to lose the traditional way. They are doing the traditional way also, and they are trying to implement BIM.
And here's what I would like to add. It's not like CAD is bad. We don't mean that way. It's just that the use of that technology is up to a certain stage, and that should be limited.
Okay.
When it's limited to that stage, and after that you use BIM and then don't go back to CAD, that works really well. This kind of approach works really well, and that's where you should know when to stop what and when to start what. I think that's something that you can do well.
But it should not be working on both the way and...
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So Chirag, my next question is more common type of challenge in the industry. For a decision maker, how should he calculate the actual ROI of BIM and take it ahead with his management and get the BIM implemented?
Yeah, so let's look at it this way. Take any of your past project.
Okay.
Right? So that's why I would say it to any developer, any construction company. Take a past project. You did it using the traditional methods, right? Look at the cost of construction of that project. So you now know that I have a X per square foot cost of construction.
Right.
I had a Y area of that project. So I know that X into Y is my cost of construction of a project.
Correct.
Right? Now take that, keep it aside. Now look at all the inefficiencies that you have normally in a project.
Right.
Take that cost, right? Keep it on one side.
Okay.
Now look at whatever inefficiencies you had in that project. Let's say
Like
drawings were inaccurate, architectural drawings, structural drawings, MEP drawings did not match when they reached site, and then they had to stop work and call for a meeting and take a decision about where do I take this duct, where do I take this pipe, it's hitting here. So those kind of inefficiencies. Sometimes look at the same set of one consultant drawing, architectural drawings, let's say, or just MEP drawings. You look at the plan and the section and the elevations, they don't match.
Okay.
Right? So look at these kind of inefficiencies. Take, for example, something where you ordered something at site and you realize that you didn't actually need it now. You needed it later. So that's also an inefficiency. You're storing more inventory than what is required at site. And of course, things which are not required at site, they'll get spoiled over a period of time.
Right.
So such inefficiencies, you look at them in your past project, you calculate the amount of cost you incurred because of these inefficiencies. You'll see that, you divide that over the total cost of construction of that project, and you see that it's almost about 2 to 5% inefficient in a way, right? So that's how you calculate the inefficiencies, and then you look at what BIM can provide and what's the cost of BIM.
So generally, if I would ask that, what is the precise number of percentage the actual return generally based on your experience, what you hear from the industry where you have implemented BIM in the construction industry?
So it's like this. You invest about less than 1% of cost of construction on BIM, right? And you get 5 times the return of that by resolving all those inefficiencies. So it's literally 500%.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So we have understood a lot of things in terms of the organizations and the developer point of view. Now, please spot some light on, as an individual, how should we get equipped on BIM? How should we get learn BIM so that we can contribute in more efficient manner in the construction industry?
Yeah, if you're an individual, I would say that just going to a class or attending some online sessions and learning the tool, learning the flow of how the activities on the software is going to work, etc. is a good starting point, but that's not enough. So learning the tool is one part.
So you're talking about the online learning, like
whether it's online, whether it's a classroom, you go to a class and you learn.
Both okay.
The challenge is that just learning the tool is just one part of the whole thing. Okay. And with learning the tool, okay, where is the button, where to go, what to do, that's about it. But having practical exposure and experience of using it on a project is very crucial. So what I notice, a lot of people who attend classes, attend some courses on BIM, they come to us, and sometimes when we are interviewing, we realize that they actually don't have any real life example of using BIM on a project.
True. Yeah.
They have probably even done a sample project, some project that was given to them during the course, and they've done that, but still, when you put them onto a real project, they'll not be able to deliver.
Because actual deliverables were not there in the.
One is that, and second is that they don't know how to work within a certain time span. They don't know how to be efficient when there are deadlines. Correct. Because they have not faced that in their course. Correct. So this is where we are seeing a challenge. I think courses or any learning has to be such where people are put into a real project, into a real situation, where they get an experience of handling a project, handling the coordination of that project with real situations, real deadlines. And when people go through that kind of learning is when they really are powerful. So those kind of people are much in demand. And that's where I think the industry is finding that dearth of resources today. Where people say that they don't find, BIM trained resources. Actually, what they're saying is they don't find these kind of resources who really know how to run a project on BIM, because they've not seen those challenges of a BIM project. So courses have to be aligned to that. and not just some training, not just some sample project, not just some project where the person is behind the scenes and doing some operation of the project, and he's not facing the client, he's not facing a real situation. The project is somewhere in the US, this guy is sitting here and doing some work. He has no idea about what the challenges of the project are, because he's not able to see the project in action on the ground here.
Right.
So this is where the challenge of training has been, I see. And I think if that is taken care of, you'll have a lot more trained manpower coming into the industry.
So, do you like to advise what is the optimum solution? Because this is the way of training is being practiced in the market right now. Either people are getting trained in a classroom type training or in a virtual or online training. How do they get trained and at the similar time parallelly they will be working towards the deliverable also? Because similar way people are working on CAD as well.
So I would say take 6 months out. Take a project, 6 months out.
Okay.
Training, put yourself into a project, give yourself that 6 months time, because it takes you to develop an entire project from concept design till construction drawings are issued, and you run a project. So for the whole cycle, to see that whole cycle from concept, schematic, detailed design, GFCs, it needs that 6 months time period. You cannot short circuit that way. So give yourself that 6 months time
on live project.
On a live project, put yourself into a live project. Do that work, do the grunt, learn the tool right from ground up. And I think it's not difficult. It's just that dedication of time is important to learn the technology. And once you do that, you're there. And we've seen that time and again with people who've done that. There's no doubt. If anybody has devoted about 6 months time or more to learning the technology on a live project, they've become very good at it, for sure.